Lena stood at her father's funeral 3 years ago watching her sister, Mia, lean close to Jake, her former fiancé. She saw them whisper something that made both of them smirk in her direction, a moment that cut deeper than any words could. If someone had told her that day, while tears streamed down her face inside that silent church, that one day Mia would be the one begging for forgiveness, she wouldn't have believed it. But betrayal had a way of rewriting destinies, pushing Lena into a future where strength, not sorrow, would define her life forever. Before her world collapsed, Lena's life in Denver was peaceful and familiar. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a small tech startup, living in a cozy apartment near Washington Park. Every morning, she picked up her vanilla oat latte from a local cafe where the barista already knew her order. She loved the quiet routine, the tree-lined sidewalks, and the sense of independence she finally felt. It was during this season of calm that Jake appeared in her life, stepping in with warm smiles and gentle charm, someone she believed was part of the beautiful future she was building. Lena met Jake at Doris's 4th of July barbecue. He stood beside the grill, telling a dramatic story that made everyone laugh, the afternoon sun catching his sandy hair. Doris introduced them, and Jake shook Lena's hand with a warm smile that lingered a moment too long. "Nice to meet you," he said softly. Their first date was a hike at Red Rocks. Their second date was lunch at a small brewery. By the third date, he brought her wildflowers because she'd mentioned loving them. "I remembered," he said gently, and Lena felt her heart open even wider. Their relationship grew fast, but nothing felt forced. Weekends were spent exploring trails, wandering farmers markets, and cooking meals together in Jake's loft. His parents embraced her instantly, his mother whispering, "You bring out the best in him." When Lena brought Jake home for Christmas, her parents adored him within minutes. Even Mia, the glamorous sister who always shined brightest, seemed truly impressed. For the first time, Lena felt she was stepping out of her sister's shadow into a life that was hers alone, one filled with love, acceptance, and hope for the future she believed they'd share. 8 months later, Jake proposed at a mountainside restaurant in Boulder, the sunset painting the sky with gold and pink. He dropped to one knee and opened a velvet box. "Lena, will you marry me?" he asked softly. With tears in her eyes, she said yes, as strangers applauded around them. Mia quickly volunteered to be her maid of honor, planning every detail with energy and excitement. But everything changed when Lena's father was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. The wedding plans faded as hospital visits began, and Jake promised her gently, "I'm here. You won't face this alone." As Lena's father grew weaker, the family pulled together in ways they never expected. Mia flew home and temporarily moved in, helping their mother manage long nights and endless hospital shifts. Jake also tried to help at first, bringing food and sitting beside Lena during chemotherapy sessions. "Your dad is strong. He'll fight through this," he would say softly, squeezing her hand. But Lena watched the exhaustion creep into everyone's faces. She stopped thinking about flowers, dresses, and cake flavors. All she wanted was more time with her father, and she prayed every night for even one small miracle. As the months passed, Jake began changing in ways Lena couldn't ignore. At first, he claimed he needed to stay late at work for urgent meetings. Then came the weekend showings that supposedly couldn't be moved. He arrived at the hospital less often, staying only an hour before rushing off again. When Lena asked if something was wrong, he sighed and said, "I'm just overwhelmed. This is hard on all of us." Mia comforted Lena, rubbing her back and saying, "Men don't handle sickness well. Don't take it personally." Lena tried to believe her, but something inside her felt unsettled. Everything began to unravel the night Lena received a call from her coworker Amy. Her voice sounded hesitant. "Lena, I don't want to upset you, but I saw Jake tonight at a wine bar in the city. And he wasn't alone." Lena felt her heart drop. Amy explained that Mia was with him, touching his arm and leaning close. "They didn't look like they were talking about your wedding," Amy whispered. When Lena confronted Jake later, he acted offended. "You're stressed, Lena. You're imagining things." Mia is helping plan your shower." Lena wanted to believe him, so she apologized. 1 week later, the truth became harder to ignore. Lena discovered a $3,000 charge on the credit card Jake used for wedding expenses. "What did you buy?" she asked, confused. Jake frowned and said sharply, "It was supposed to be a surprise for you, but now you've ruined it." But Lena knew every piece of wedding jewelry had already been chosen months earlier. Still, she stayed quiet, choosing not to add more stress to her father's declining condition. She kept telling herself Jake was just overwhelmed, that Mia was only trying to help, that her family wouldn't betray her. The truth shattered her heart in the hospital parking garage. Lena walked toward her car when she heard Mia's familiar laugh echoing through the concrete. Curious, she stepped closer and froze. Jake had Mia pinned gently against his car, their bodies close, their faces inches apart. Mia's hands were tangled in his hair, and Jake whispered something that made her smile. Lena stepped into view, shaking. They jumped apart immediately. "Lena, we didn't mean for this," Mia stammered. Jake looked guilty and relieved at the same time. Lena whispered, "How long?" Her voice trembled. Jake answered softly, 2 months, maybe 3. Hearing the truth felt like a punch to Lena's chest. Mia wiped her smeared lipstick and whispered, "We fell in love. We tried to fight it, but sometimes you can't control your heart." Jake added quietly, "You're sweet, Lena, but Mia and I want the same things. We're more compatible." His words struck harder than any betrayal. Lena pulled off her engagement ring and threw it at his feet. The sound echoed through the garage like a final goodbye. Without another word, she turned and ran, leaving behind her sister, her fiancé, and everything she thought she knew about loyalty. Calling off the wedding felt like living through a slow, painful storm. Every vendor wanted explanations. Every phone call reminded her of the future she had lost. Lena's father listened quietly when she told him, his eyes full of sorrow. "You deserved better, sweetheart," he whispered, squeezing her hand gently. She moved back into her childhood room, surrounded by lavender walls and high school trophies that reminded her of simpler days. She spent nights crying into her pillow, feeling both heartbroken and ashamed. But even then, her father would smile weakly and say, "You're stronger than you think, Lena. Much stronger." 2 months later, Lena's father passed away on a quiet gray morning. Rain tapped softly against the windows as her family gathered around his bed. Lena held his hand until the very end. Planning his funeral felt impossible while her heart was still raw from betrayal. Mia behaved like the devoted daughter, arriving early to help their mother and acting as if nothing had happened between them. Jake stayed in the car outside the house, too cowardly to face Lena inside her own home. Lena felt numb, moving through the funeral preparations as if she were floating outside her body. The funeral morning was a blur of umbrellas, whispered condolences, and the heavy scent of flowers. Mia insisted on giving a eulogy, speaking about their father as if she had been the perfect daughter during his final months. Lena sat stiffly in the front row, listening as Mia mentioned finding true love during that difficult time, turning her father's funeral into her own performance. When Lena tried to speak later, her voice cracked, and she managed only a few sentences before tears overwhelmed her. She returned to her seat shaking, watching Mia and Jake sit together like a proud couple. At the graveside, as the casket lowered into the ground, Mia leaned close to Lena and whispered, "At least Dad saw one daughter happy before he died." The cruelty was sharp and intentional. Lena couldn't breathe. She stared straight ahead, refusing to give Mia the satisfaction of a reaction. That night at the reception, held at the same country club where Lena once imagined her wedding would be, relatives whispered behind her back. "Such a shame," one aunt murmured. "Losing her father and her fiancé." Another said softly, "Well, she'll recover. Mia certainly seems to be doing just fine." Lena escaped into her father's study, the only quiet place in the building. His glasses still sat on the desk. His favorite pen lay beside an unfinished note. Opening the drawer, she found his journal. Most entries talked about business or family moments, but the last one was about her. "Lena glows steady and warm," he had written. "She'll rise from this stronger." Tears blurred her vision. Uncle Robert entered quietly and placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is a circus out there," he muttered. Lena whispered, "I've lost everything." But Robert shook his head gently. "Not yourself." Robert offered her a job the very next day. "Come to Seattle," he said. "I need a strong marketing leader, and you need miles between you and this madness." Lena hesitated, but the idea of rebuilding her life far from Denver sounded like salvation. 2 weeks later, she stood in her empty apartment with 2 suitcases and a one-way ticket. Her mother hugged her tight. "Go heal, sweetheart. Your father would want this." As the plane lifted into the sky, Lena stared out the window at the fading city and whispered, "This is my fresh start. This time for real." Seattle greeted Lena with gray skies and soft drizzle, but the rain felt cleansing rather than gloomy. Robert helped her settle into a small studio in Capitol Hill with exposed brick walls and large windows. It was quiet and hers alone. Starting her new job at Robert's company, she buried herself in work, determined to prove she deserved the opportunity. She met Amanda, a vibrant coworker with purple-tinted hair who quickly sensed Lena carried heavy emotional baggage. "You need therapy, girl," Amanda said one day, not unkindly. And deep down, Lena knew she was right. Something inside her needed mending. Lena began therapy with Dr. Helen, a calm, warm-voiced woman who specialized in betrayal and grief. Dr. Helen explained, "You're grieving several losses at once. Your father, your relationship, your sister, and the version of yourself you used to be." Lena cried in their sessions, releasing emotions she had buried for months. At work, she found herself gaining confidence again. She reorganized the marketing department, introduced new strategies, and improved client engagement dramatically. Robert noticed her growth. "You're thriving," he told her proudly. Slowly, Lena began believing it too, realizing she wasn't broken. She was rebuilding piece by piece. 6 months later, Lena earned a promotion to director of marketing. She celebrated by buying a small condo in Queen and with a balcony overlooking the distant skyline. Amanda cheered for her, shouting, "Look at you, rising from the ashes like a queen." Their friendship deepened, and Amanda dragged Lena into the world of dating apps. "Think of it as research," Amanda joked. Lena went on a few awkward dates, learning to laugh again. Meanwhile, Mia's texts arrived occasionally. Photos of her and Jake at events, restaurants, vacations. Lena blocked her everywhere except email, deciding that some bridges needed distance. By Thanksgiving, Lena finally heard what she always suspected would happen. Her mother called during one of their Tuesday check-ins and whispered, "Mia is heartbroken. Jake cheated on her with his assistant." Lena didn't feel triumph, only a strange calmness. Her mother added softly, "I didn't remind her of anything." But the irony. Lena spent the holiday with Amanda's lively family, who welcomed her like one of their own. For the first time in years, she felt surrounded by love without conditions. She watched Amanda's grandmother fold lumpia and realized she was building a new life, a new family. At the company holiday party, Lena wore an emerald dress Amanda insisted made her look unreachable and powerful. As she stood by the tall windows overlooking the glowing Seattle skyline, Amanda nudged her gently. "You've come a long way," she said. "I'm proud of you." Lena smiled but admitted, "I still go home alone." Amanda squeezed her arm. "Your person is coming. The universe always sends them when you stop chasing and start healing." Lena laughed softly, thinking her friend was just being kind. She had no idea how true Amanda's words were, or how soon her life would shift. The shift happened on a rainy February morning. Lena rushed into a cafe, already late for a crucial meeting, and collided hard with someone holding a hot coffee. The drink spilled across her cream suit, soaking into the fabric. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," the man said, truly panicked. Lena looked up into warm brown eyes belonging to a tall man with silver at his temples and a gentle expression. "No, it's my fault," she said, flustered. He immediately handed her his navy jacket. "Please take this. I can't let you walk out like that." She hesitated. "I don't even know you." The man smiled kindly. "Now you do. I'm Chris Hart." Lena introduced herself, still embarrassed, and Chris handed her his business card. "Return the jacket whenever you can. Maybe I'll replace your lost coffee when you do." Lena hurried to her meeting wearing his jacket like armor. To her shock, when she began presenting the marketing strategy to a new potential client, the boardroom door opened, and Chris walked in. "Sorry I'm late," he said, then spotted her and smiled. "Ms. Morgan, we meet again." Lena felt heat rush to her cheeks, but Chris nodded encouragingly. "Please continue," he said. Somehow, Lena finished the presentation, though her heart raced the entire time. When Chris's team asked questions, he spoke up warmly. "If their marketing is as memorable as Ms. Morgan's first impression, I think we're in good hands." Their team chose Lena's company for the contract. Amanda screamed with excitement when she heard. Later that afternoon, Chris emailed her. "Congratulations. Believe I owe you coffee. Dinner instead." Lena stared at the message for 20 minutes before replying. She told herself it was professional courtesy. But deep in her chest, something fluttered, something she hadn't felt in years. Their first date was at a restaurant overlooking Lake Union, the sky glowing purple at sunset. Conversation flowed easily, as if they'd known each other much longer than an hour. Chris confessed gently. "I almost didn't come. After my wife passed away, I thought I'd never want this again." Lena shared her own story. Jake, Mia, her father's death, her move to Seattle. Chris didn't interrupt or try to fix anything. He just listened. When Lena finished, he said quietly, "Betrayal changes us. Lost us too. But maybe we understand each other because of those scars." The words warmed her deeply. Their slow-growing connection became something steady and comforting. Coffee dates turned into weekend walks. Chris taught Lena to sail on Lake Washington, laughing as she confused left and right on the boat. Lena introduced him to her favorite food truck, watching his refined CEO elegance disappear as he devoured tacos. After 3 months, she met his close friends at a dinner party. His best friend Marcus whispered, "We haven't seen him smile like this in years." Meeting his parents came naturally too. His mother held Lena's hands and said, "You brought light back to him." Lena felt her heart soften. 6 months after meeting, they hiked Mount Rainier on a warm summer day. Surrounded by wildflowers, Chris stopped and turned toward her with a serious expression. "Lena, I love you," he said quietly. "I didn't think I'd ever say those words again. But you've shown me that second chances are real." Lena felt tears gather as she whispered back, "I love you too." Moving in together felt natural. Chris's large, quiet home slowly filled with Lena's warmth. Bright blankets, flowers on the counter, laughter in the kitchen. For the first time in years, Lena felt truly safe. Truly chosen. A year after their first date, Chris proposed during a sunset yacht cruise near Vashon Island. The water glowed gold as he dropped to one knee. "I've already lived one love story," he said softly. "I never expected another. But you taught me my heart wasn't done. Lena Morgan, will you marry me?" The ring sparkled with her father's birthstone. A sapphire worked into the design after Chris quietly asked Lena's mother about him. Lena cried and whispered, "Yes," again and again. Their wedding was intimate and real, held at Chris's parents' beach house with only 50 guests there. Amanda stood beside Lena as maid of honor, crying through her toast. Lena's mother walked her down the aisle, whispering, "Your father would be so proud." It was a gentle, healing day. Nothing like the wedding she once planned with Jake. Afterward, Lena and Chris settled into a rhythm of love and success. Lena launched her own marketing agency, landing major clients. Chris's company expanded internationally. Their days felt like shared adventures instead of routines. 3 years after her heartbreak, Lena finally felt whole again. She had rebuilt her life not by luck, but by choosing herself every step of the way. 3 years after that first coffee collision, Lena's mother invited both daughters to Denver for her 65th birthday dinner. Lena hesitated but agreed, wanting to honor her mother. She and Chris flew into Denver on his company's private plane, a luxury Lena still wasn't used to. They stayed at a downtown hotel to maintain boundaries. Lena tried to stay calm, but nerves twisted in her stomach. Chris held her hand gently and whispered, "You're not facing this alone." When they entered the restaurant, her mother smiled brightly, but Mia froze the moment she saw Chris, recognizing him from business news. Mia tried to act cheerful, greeting Lena with forced enthusiasm. Derek trailed behind her, looking worn down, his confidence long gone. Dinner began politely, with Chris leading most conversations. He asked Derek about real estate, and Derek awkwardly admitted his license was suspended. Mia mentioned working at a department store, trying to make it sound glamorous. Their tension grew with every passing moment. Chris later stood and gave a toast. "To Paula," he said. "A strong woman whose love shaped the daughter I'm blessed to call my wife." Mia's eyes flickered with jealousy, while Derek gulped his drink quickly. The evening fell apart when Derek attempted his own toast, slurring through a long rambling story about past successes. Mia hissed at him to sit down. Lena excused herself to the restroom, breathing slowly to stay calm. Moments later, Mia followed her inside. "You planned this," Mia snapped. "You brought your rich husband here to embarrass me." Lena washed her hands quietly and replied, "I came to celebrate Mom's birthday. Your situation is your responsibility, not mine." Mia's voice cracked. "How can you be so cold? I'm your sister. I'm struggling." Lena turned to face her. "You chose this." Chris appeared in the doorway, immediately sensing the tension. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Lena nodded and said, "We should go." Outside in the parking lot, Mia suddenly broke down, mascara streaking her cheeks. "How do I fix my life?" she sobbed. "Everything I took from you turned into ashes. Jake cheats. We're broke. I have nothing." Lena stepped back, steady and calm. "I hope you rebuild yourself, Mia. But I'm not part of that journey." Their mother hugged Lena tightly before she left. "Your father would be proud," she whispered. "You handled tonight with grace." Flying back to Seattle the next morning, Lena stared out the window as mountains rolled beneath them. Chris reviewed documents beside her, occasionally squeezing her hand to remind her she wasn't alone. When they landed, Lena expected silence from Mia. Instead, she received a long string of emotional texts, apologies mixed with subtle requests for money. Lena didn't respond. In her next therapy session, she and Dr. Helen drafted a message. "I forgive you for my peace," Lena wrote, "but I cannot be part of your healing. Please respect this boundary." She sent it, then blocked Mia's number. 6 months later, Lena's mother called with news. "They're divorcing," Paula said quietly. "It's ugly." Derek accused Mia of hiding money. Mia accused him of cheating with multiple women. Lena listened without judgment, surprised by the calm she felt. She no longer carried anger. She simply felt distance, the peaceful kind that comes when wounds finally close. Meanwhile, her own life was flourishing. Her marketing agency landed national clients. Chris's firm expanded internationally. They traveled frequently, mixing work with moments of laughter and adventure. Every success felt like proof that her life had rebuilt itself stronger than before. One Tuesday morning, everything changed again. Lena stared at a positive pregnancy test, then another, then a third. Tears filled her eyes as she sat on the bathroom floor. Chris found her moments later. "Lena, are you okay?" She held up one of the tests with shaking hands. "We're having a baby." His face softened and he pulled her into his arms. "A baby," he whispered, his voice breaking. "We're really having a baby." The man who survived the loss of his first wife cried with joy, holding Lena like she was the world itself. Their future felt bright. A month later, Lena received a handwritten letter from Mia. The tone was soft, reflective, nothing like the sister she once knew. Mia admitted everything: jealousy, insecurity, cruelty, and regret. She wrote, "I destroyed our sisterhood. I ruined Dad's last months. I took what was yours only to learn it was never meant for me." She ended with, "If you ever let me meet my niece or nephew someday, I'd be grateful. But if you don't, I understand." Lena kept the letter but didn't reply. Healing didn't always require reunion. Some doors were better left closed permanently. During a quiet evening walk along Alki Beach, Lena felt the baby kick for the first time. She stopped walking, grabbing Chris's hand. "Did you feel that?" she said, eyes shining. They stood by the water as ferries crossed the Sound, the sky glowing orange. Chris placed a hand on her belly and whispered, "Our little miracle." Lena felt tears fill her eyes, but they weren't from sadness. They were from gratitude. The ring on her finger caught the fading sunlight. She thought of her father's journal, of the words he wrote. "She'll rise from this stronger." He had been right. Looking back, Lena finally understood something powerful. The day Mia mocked her at her father's funeral, Lena wasn't watching her life collapse. She was watching her old life end so a better one could begin. Jake and Mia hadn't stolen her future. They had freed her from a small life she almost settled for. Now she stood beside a man who loved her deeply, carrying a child who represented hope. "Sometimes the person who breaks you," Lena whispered softly, "is the person who unknowingly shapes you." She squeezed Chris's hand, smiling at the horizon. Lena didn't just rise, she soared.